Yep, you know it's a Monday win. Anyway, John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. It is a Reaction Monday. And it looks like I'm going to need to get more new cables for my headphones, or at least a new set of headphones, because it's not improving. Anyway, John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. And it is a rundown of everything from a Reaction Monday, especially when I remember to trigger my microphone. So we'll go over Atlanta United, go over Atlanta United 2, and it was, suffice to say, frustrating nights on both sides. Abe Gordon's going to join us as he always does, batting leadoff. He's probably going to join us in a little less than 10 minutes, and he'll help break down the Atlanta United side of things. 9:30 block, it's going to be looking at post-match from Atlanta United. We've got some Stian Gregerson to get into. We have some Lucas Hoyos, where Jason and Maddie caught up with him after the match. And we'll get into the quotes from Tata Martino, and we'll get into the twos. Twos last night, if you missed it on the network, it is another frustrating night, and this will kind of lead into Bart coming in at 10 o'clock. He'll have cards and calls, obviously, but we'll get into the USMNT, and we'll see if Restream behaves on any of his devices or if his concrete tomb is just completely and totally telling him that, no, you need to go someplace else and do things on this particular show, because apparently Restream works a bunch of other things that Bart does, but for some strange reason, it doesn't want to help hang out with us when he comes in on Mondays. Don't know why, but it's going to be a discussion a bit. Obviously, like I said, we have cards and calls to get into across a couple of different matches and such, but the twos match last night specifically, I wanted to discuss with Bart, and I showed him a couple of different instances that I wanted him to just kind of look at, and I wanted his feedback on them. We'll get into, obviously, what happened with the twos. Once again, a frustrating night across the board. It ended up as a 3-0 loss, but do not be fooled by the final score, because that was not how the match really played out. And it's because I want Bart to look at two plays that happened in the second half that will get into what happened with the twos and how frustrating an evening it was, because it was goalless at the break. Charlotte had decided to bring Tyler Miller down and have him get some reps in net for Crown Legacy. Goalless at the break, and he had, I want to say it was 5 saves in the first half. So Atlanta United was getting opportunities, and we'll play you the first half highlights just to give you an example as to where Atlanta United 2 was in the discussion last night in MLS NEXT Pro. 2 top 10 teams in the power rankings going into a matchup at Matthews. Then in the second half, with the numbers being what they were when it came to fouls being called, and this goes into rhythm of games. You had a man in the middle last night who decided that the first foul that he was going to award to Atlanta United 2 would be a yellow card, considering the other cards that had been issued in the first half to Crown Legacy. So it was 7 fouls to none in the first half. And so in the second half, you end up with the first foul call being a yellow on Adrian Gill. Then 6 minutes later, on an incident that had happened in the first half, similar, if not the same, where no card was given in the first half, man in the middle gives a second card to Gill, basically 6 minutes apart. And then Atlanta United has to play the last 30-plus with 10, and that's when the tenor of the match changed. So then you have a team trying to defend basically for 35 minutes, down a man, on a situation that should not have been a man-down a man-down element in that discussion. So we'll get into that with Bart. Obviously, you got to get into the USMNT and everything that's going on there with their involvement because apparently they're coming to town and they're going to play a couple of matches, and it's going to be. I'm intrigued to see what the attendance is for the two matches coming up in a week, and obviously we'll take it a match at a time when we break it down with Bart. We'll get into the first, get into decisions, we'll get into all those kinds of things, and we'll lay it all out for you. So Bart's going to join us hour number 2, talking twos, talking cards, talking USMNT, and we'll back it up with the discussion that we have here with Abe Gordon. And I guess Abe technically on Mondays is kind of evolving into opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. So we'll bring Abe in and find out what is on the man's mind. How are the Cavs, sir?
Everything is good. I'm actually going to go for a run here in a little bit, even though it's starting to get quite warm out there. So we'll test them out here shortly.
Okay, just checking. Because we want you to be in tip-top shape because, we want you making those PRs. We want you to continue making those PRs this year. And so, you're chasing after that 4-minute mile. You and Roger Bannister, we want you to get right there. We've had obviously a couple days to think about it, or more like a day and a half. And it was obviously a frustrating night on a bunch of different fronts for Atlanta United fans. They go and you're seeing as a club trying to get momentum carried over from what happened against Philadelphia. And basically DC decided, all right, we're going to play in a phone booth and it's going to be up to you. We're just going to kind of stand here and you got to do all the work. And at the end of the day, all the work that was done by Atlanta United does not end up with any goals or points. It was a goalless draw. And I look at DC United as kind of taking the Kyle Busch approach of showing up just so they don't get fined. Now that you've had 36 hours to think about it, what else sticks in your head?
Yeah, John, maybe I leaned a little bit this way on Saturday night with you at the full-time report. But like, honestly, is Atlanta United at a point where we can be that disappointed with a draw and taking a point right now? Like, it's frustrating in the moment, the performance, but like, you also lost 3 matches to start the season, including one at home. And so I don't know, like, yeah, it's frustrating, the style of play, and you didn't necessarily get what you needed. And there were a couple of issues kind of reminded you of last season in terms of finding the final touch, maybe not shooting from the outside, things that certainly can be worked upon. But right now, considering what the last couple of seasons have been for Atlanta United, I think I'm just happy to take the point, move a little bit, a notch up the standing, separate yourself slightly from all of the Eastern Conference teams that only have one win, and hope to perform better. I think there were some positives on the backside. Yes, DC wasn't necessarily going that hard after a goal, at least the first 65, 70 minutes. But either way, you did hold up through a number of scares and got the first clean sheet of the season. So, look, there are more things to get done. And I know the idea is 3 points at home, 1 point on the road. I understand that. But considering the lack of intent from DC United, considering where we've seen the floor of Atlanta United over the past 18 months, and the struggle to get even a point a year ago, it's frustrating. You wanted to build, but in the moment, I think I'll just take the point and try and improve upon that.
Okay. So then if you're going to take the point, obviously, then we can talk about Lucas Hoyos, and Wiley brings up the comment from the Discord. The only person trying to make the game exciting was Lucas Hoyos. And Lucas did have his moments out there as well where, it's with keepers that have certain personalities, you're going to have those moments where you're going to be on the edge of your seat for both good and bad. But I want to
When are we getting the good? When are we getting the good then?
All right. So then what's your issue with Lucas Hoyos?
I just think he's a little bit more reckless in the back than he needs to be. Now, I did not see that Saturday night. I did not see anything wrong on Saturday. Maybe I missed a giveaway or two.
There are the moments where there might be a pass here or there. I mean,
he's cost us multiple goals this season with bad pass turnovers. Like that's been a problem. I didn't see that Saturday, but like I also haven't seen like some historic pass that sets off a counter yet either. So far, I haven't seen like anything specifically good. He's made some really nice saves, but I don't know. To play that style, you're saying you're taking good with the bad. I've only seen bad from that specific style.
Only had one save on the night, and he had the one high claim, obviously. Then you look at his and literally it's like 10 recoveries because DC did what DC did, or they did what they didn't, basically. You look at the numbers for Lucas Hoyos, and you're just kind of like, okay, well, he only had, 46 touches. Everything was progressive, 9 carries on the day, only had the one save. And so, once again, to your point, it's like, well, he didn't really in 39 to 40 passing, which is, that's almost unheard of to have almost perfect passing for a keeper in this day and age. 3 long balls associated with it, but he didn't. There, I think there were the standard moments where there was like a pass that might have been in tight space or something like that. DC didn't get a hold of, unlike what we saw with San Jose. But I don't think that the moments with Hoyos last time out were as numerous as they have been in games because of how he is stylistically.
I thought he was perfectly fine Saturday night.
Yeah.
I didn't see any issues with the distribution on Saturday. And so far, that's been my only concern with him, had been distribution. And to those stats, yeah, I didn't see any of that Saturday night. So I'm not critical of him in terms of Saturday, but there have been more bad than good, in my opinion, over the course of the season. But that didn't appear Saturday night. I do think he got a little bit lucky, that ball that ricocheted off the post. And then off his back, went on the outside of the, for a corner as opposed to in the net. That's kind of just a luck of the bounce sort of thing. But other than that, I thought he was perfectly fine on Saturday. But I don't think he necessarily did anything historic to keep the clean sheet either. That was mostly DC United doing their own clean sheet.
Yeah, it was pretty much just paying attention to yourself in the mirror. So then let's go to the back line. We had mentioned Stian was man of the match, but you look at the center back pairing of Gregerson and Mihai, and right now, if I'm in rhythm, I know that I have 13 days before my next match when Columbus comes to town, and it is a different Columbus 10 than what we're used to. It is right now a back line of Baez, Mihai, Gregerson, and Tomas Jakob. And obviously, Jakob will engage offensively when needed. The center backs, you want them to engage offensively when the opportunity presents itself. What have you thought about the back four so far here after the first handful of matches?
Yeah, I mentioned in the offseason, I was a Stian guy. I'm probably always going to be a Stian guy. And when you talk about Hoyos, take the good with the bad. I'm taking the good with the bad with Stian as well. But I just think his speed and his size makes a difference. I just feel better with him back there. And I think we saw that again on Saturday. There were some scary moments. One in particular where Stian's speed, I think, made the difference between breaking up an attack or conceding a goal. And so I think they've been very good. Baez has been a little bit quiet. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's not concerning by any stretch. But he made such an impact in his debut match. He was all over the place. And part of that was because of the counterattack and what he had to be in that game. And you didn't have Stian. He felt a lot of times on that, if you're coming offensively down the right side, but defensively the left side, but last man back. And he had to make a ton of plays. And Jakob is gotten through as well, both in the attack and on defense. Like, I don't have any real problems. I thought they were good last match, 2 matches ago. They didn't hold the clean sheet there, but I thought they were very good against the Philadelphia Union. And I thought they did what they were asked to do Saturday night. Obviously, a couple scares off the crossbar, off the post, but other than that, I thought they fared well in a game where it would have been easy to fall asleep and concede late.
All right, so then let's keep moving forward. The starting lineup had, if you want to call the two in front of the back four, you had Tristan and Cooper Sanchez. And with Cooper, it's like, okay, now that Cooper's in, I think Cooper is in a rhythm. I think is probably the easiest way to describe it right now. Not intimidated by his surroundings. We knew this coming forward, that with his cup of coffee that he had at points last season, with the time that we've seen him with the twos, not intimidated by his surroundings at all. He continues to impress, and Tristan seems to be becoming more comfortable with what he's being asked to do with Tata right now.
Yeah, if anything, I wish we got a little more of what we saw from Cooper out of Tristan. And I mentioned this the other night. It was very frustrating not to see Tristan Moyamba take a couple of rips when the ball ricocheted back out to him,
Yeah.
just past the 18. First off, at any level, like, dude, you can miss hit the balls upper 90. So like, just have the shot, ricochets, deflections, anything can happen. So take the shot. And I thought that was one of the problems with the offense, quite frankly, is that when we'd put the ball in and it would come back out, someone needed to hit a shot. The best chance for United to score was when Cooper Sanchez did that. Ball kind of ricocheted. He hits a volley, hits it well, and Sean Johnson up to the task. I wish we had seen more of that from Tristan Moyamba to hope potentially open things up and pull the defense out a little bit. But outside of that, no real complaints about the midfield. I thought they held it down relatively well. And when I thought also Tristan did one thing in Saturday that he was hesitant to do. I think it was against Cincinnati, and that was take the foul to stop a momentum play. He took the foul, he took the red card, the yellow card in the moment, and it was just one of those things where when you talk about progression and you talk about learning and you talk about the process, I think that's a thing that you can point to and say, hey, in match day 2 or 3, whichever one it was, I forget. I think it was match day 3. He didn't do that. And the non-foul led to a breakaway goal. In this match, he understood, hey, we don't have guys back. We need to stop the play. He took the foul. He took the card, and you held the clean sheet possibly because of that. And so there is some learning. There is that progression. You do see that a little bit. I do wonder if they're playing a little scared in terms of having those shots from the outside, because we have seen at times this season a shot that doesn't get through, comes back the other way. The defense isn't recovered. There's no structure, and that has led to a goal. So I don't like the idea that is in the back of his mind, and maybe the reason he didn't let fly. But I can understand at least why that might be present. But at the same time, ignore it and hit the shot and see what happens. So
Right.
I'll take my chances. But I understand why there might be some hesitancy there. But yeah, I think Cooper's been very good. I think Moyamba's been perfectly fine. And interested to see how they work Jay Fortune back into this when he's back closer to 100%.
Yeah, Jay was with the twos last night up in Charlotte, with the matchup against Crown Legacy,
We don't
and
need to talk about that result.
well, we do, and we are once you are off and running. Pardon the pun. This morning, being properly hydrated. The result, the final score, is not indicative of what happened last night because of context that we're going to get into, and part of it has to do with Jay Fortune and the man in the middle. So we'll get into that as a part of it this morning. But Jay played. Now that you have me intrigued, I'm trying to figure out how many minutes Jay played last night, because he was out there for a while. And you mentioned Jay, and so when Jay gets healthy, I'm interested to see what his integration is going to be when it comes to minutes with the first team and all that kind of stuff. So and how he would work in the rotation of those individuals that you're looking at in the midfield. So I'm interested to see what it's going to look like. But Jay last night played the full 90. Okay, so he did play the full 90. I thought he got subbed out late, but he ended up playing the full 90 last night. And I want to see what the physios have to say with Jay today, tomorrow, next couple of days, to see what his recovery is going to be like. The benefit being is that there's nothing going on this weekend, and they can monitor him for a full week to get ready when Columbus comes to town, and what it's going to look like with Jay coming back in.
Yeah, again, I would imagine that when he is ready to return to the first team, you start him in a 30-minute span on the back half, coming off the bench and see. I think the question is just to what extent is the current core of the midfield going to be able to hold off Jay Fortune, and to what extent is Tata looking forward to getting him into the lineup or being asked to hold him out of the lineup, or how does that work? Because, with respect to Jay, I don't know if we're at the moment, based on what we've seen so far. I don't want Cooper to lose development and to lose
Right.
his spot because of this. And at that point, is it a Jay versus Moyamba discussion? Is it about contract? Is it about future? Is it about who's been with this club? What are the discussions that Tata has to have in addition to how they're performing in the moment on the field? And do we see any mistakes from Tristan when Jay is kind of looking over his shoulder? I know we don't talk about position competitions necessarily
Mm-hmm.
In this football as compared to American football,
Well,
but when it's there, when it's kind of hanging over your shoulder, does it change how Tristan tries to play? Is he trying to do too much to make sure he holds off Jay in terms of the starting spot, and what are the impacts there? And so it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic when he is back closer to ready to roll. Again, I thought Jay Fortune was among the brightest spots in a very rough year last season before his injury, and I would have said the same about Matt Edwards as well. And so it's just going to be interesting to see. And then also, is Jay able to do something slightly different than Tristan in terms of Tata's ideal midfield play? Again, it's such a work in progress. We're still trying to figure out exactly what each midfielder is going to bring to the table, and how it best suits not just Tata's ideal play, but also the modified ideal play for what you have to have for this core, this unit, this attack, this defense, all of that thing. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I don't know how, if Tristan and Cooper don't take steps backwards, how you change the starting lineup right now. But there's more matches to come, and maybe some setbacks. Hopefully not, but potentially.
yeah, and to your point, obviously with Jay, what does Jay bring to the table? And if you look at your three forwards, you have a point guard. Well, the three in the attack, you've got Alexi, who's more of a point guard. You've got Miggy, who's more of a shooting guard, if you want to use basketball vernacular, and Latte Lot, who might be more of a power forward, or one of your forwards up top, if not a power forward. And so, what does that mean to your midfield and their personalities? Who's more of your defenders? Who's more of your rebounder? Those kinds of things. And so, with Jay. Is Jay more of the two-way player in this, where Cooper might be more of a two-way player? We know Tristan wants to be that two-way guy. He wants to go forward and think that he's a 9 in addition to everything else that's there. So, the personality and how they mesh, once again, I think the benefit of having that bye week with the international break will help out in trying to figure out rhythm with Jay and what the combinations could be when he gets back to 100%.
Yeah, and it's also just what you're looking for, and this goes back to Tata and his preferred style as well. I this is just how I view them. I don't think Tristan is the strongest defensively as a midfielder. I think, to your point, he wants to get up the attack, and I think he can do some really creative things with the ball at his feet when he does get pushing forward. But do you want a little bit stronger defense in the midfield? Because I do view Jay Fortune as that, and I know Jay can get into the attack as well. I think he's got great frontline speed in a straight line, but I don't think he's quite as creative on the ball. Not even as a passer, but as a dribbler that Tristan is. And so, how much of that is plus for the offense but minus for the defense? Or in Jay, I view as a plus for the defensive capabilities of this team, maybe a slight minus for the offense. But again, you should have enough playmakers with what you just outlined up front, that you're not asking that midfield to be the creators here. You have Moranchuk, you have Miggy, you have Latte Lot. There are other guys who should be doing that. And so it'll be interesting from that perspective to see if you want to bolster the defense a little bit, can control the midfield a little bit more. I view Jay as that guy. Or if you're just about getting numbers up, maybe that is still Tristan.
Yep. And so we'll find out the answers as we go here in the bye week, getting ready for Columbus for 404 Day coming up in that next month, which is commonly referred to as April. So you got time to kind of sit here and ingest things. You got the national team coming in this weekend, and they're going to be here for 2 matches with Belgium and Portugal. What are you looking forward to in the next 7 days?
Honestly, just hoping to get everyone back healthy. I don't know where Will Riley is back from his issue. And I mentioned this to you. The Barricall Steon question is going to be really interesting if he gets back to full strength from his injury, his muscle injury that's kind of limited him. I think it was a quad. It might have been hamstring, but maybe it was quad. And it's just one of those things. Is there a situation where you view it as you don't lose your job due to injury? That would lead you to believe that they'll put Barricall back into the lineup, replacing Steon. Obviously, that was the decision Tata made on at the start of the year was Barricall over Steon. But I think form has shown you that maybe Steon deserves to keep getting those reps there. So honestly, of all the things I'm probably most interested in when we get back on April 4th is who is your center back pairing? Because I think there is a good chance Barricall's fully healed from his muscle injury. And then at that point, are you going back to how you started the year or not? But talked about it with you Saturday night. This is your first real kind of lengthy opportunity to make whatever serious adjustments. I know there's always minor adjustments game to game, but with no game, with no opponent that you're gearing up for in the immediacy here, what are some of the adjustments you can make over the next 10 days before you start to work in a game plan ahead of that match with Columbus? I know you'll be missing a couple of guys, but most of the team will still be here. I'm also looking forward to just seeing, I follow US men's national team on social media, seeing their escapades at the training facility and just hearing what they think of the incredible stuff that Atlanta United has put together there up 75.
Yes, and I, because me, I'm always a fan of capades, and we'll find out what it looks like. As always, my friend, great to catch up with you to bat leadoff on our week, and we will catch up with you unless you want to knock on the door at any given moment. If you want to vent your spleen on or any other day other than a Monday, we'll catch up with you in 7 days' time. Good to see you.
Yeah, maybe if the U.S. national team slips on the grass coming up, we might have to have another talk.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, say hi to Chipper. We'll see you next week.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye. Abe Gordon, everybody. And I guess Abe today will be opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. We start your day with the most important stories in the game and the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta to try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. It's heavy-bodied, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Okay. We were kind of getting into the numbers with Abe a little bit and getting into the starting 11. And interesting as the layout sound like. What is that? I had something in my ear. I don't know if it was in yours, but it was just annoying the daylights out of me. Anyway, all right. So the numbers for Atlanta United going up against DC, and like I said, I think DC more than anything, they were just there so they didn't get fined. It's like, yeah, we're going to show up and we're going to do our thing. We've seen it in the past with teams that have had schedule compression. They're just kind of like, we know what this one's going to be. Let's just get out of here with a point and we'll go from there. So we mentioned most of the starting 11, the three up top. It was the same lineup that was there for the matchup against Philly. DC, Sean Johnson in net, and it was Kurokawa, Rawls, Bartlett, and Hefty. There was a glad joke in there somewhere had something happened. Then your midfield four, it was Joao Peglo, Peltelis, Brandon Cervania, and Jackson Hopkins, and Baribo and Gabriel Pirani. They were up top. And you mentioned defensively, when we were getting into the defensive efforts for Atlanta United, obviously you make sure that Ty Baribo did not beat you. He did not. Played the full 90 minutes, fell down on occasion trying to draw fouls that were just horrendous attempts at falling down and dropping. But he only had the one shot on the day. Baribo only had one shot on the day. And when it came to his passing numbers, he only had one key pass, 12 of 17 passing. So that means that he did not have a whole lot of touches, 25 touches on the day. By comparison, Latte Lot only had 20. So Baribo had 25 touches on the day, one unsuccessful touch, according to our friends at SofaScore, 8 times losing possession in 25 touches. So literally 1/3 of the time he was losing possession when Atlanta United would collapse around him. And his progression was a negative Total progression on the day in 25 touches, minus 21.7 meters. So basically, more times often than not, he had to go backward with his possession and was not able to beat you, which was one of the things, obviously, that you're going to be keeping an eye on with Ty Baribo going when he comes into your barn. 3 defensive contributions. He had 1 pick, 2 recoveries, 7 of 17 on his duels, 2 fouls, and 2 times he was dribbled past. So it was not the kind of day that DC United brought Ty Baribo in to have. So they clamped down on Ty Baribo and forced others to beat them to the ball, and then in the offensive half. Getting into the stats on the day, and once again, Atlanta had 71% possession. Part of that is just because DC doesn't want the ball; they think it's got cooties anyway. 29% possession on the day for DC. They're going to make you do all the work. And then they have those moments where you sit there, and if you're not mentally sharp for a full 90 minutes, there's that one moment where you might go mentally walkabout, and it's like, yeah, this is how this will work, and then we'll pounce on it and take advantage of it and turn around and score in a short field. A couple of moments where Lucas Hoyos, the one specifically late, where the shot got past him, went off of the far post, bounced off of hit him in the back, and it went out for a corner that Abe was talking about. But 71% possession for Atlanta United. XG on the total, both teams total of 0.48. Literally, it was almost twice the XG Atlanta United had over DC United. A 0.17 was the XG for DC United. 7 shots to 4. 1 save for Hoyos. And then you had 3 saves for Sean Johnson. 2 of those were early, 1 from Cooper Sanchez in the 13th, and then Galarza in the 16th. 7 corners on the day, 17 fouls. And we talked about Jair Marufo, where he kind of lets the game breathe. Averaged 21 fouls, and this was on the underside of 21. 17 fouls called in the match. He let him go. 1 yellow card each side. 18 touches in the 18 for Atlanta, 14 for DC United. 3 times they were fouled. Atlanta was fouled in the final third. You look at your passing. Passing in the final third for Atlanta, 142 of 191, basically twice as many passes as DC United had. 64 of 97, Atlanta United completed 74% of their passes in the final third. 76 final third entries compared to 41 on the day for Atlanta United. And then you have, with those final third entries of 76, you have 7 total shots. 3 of them on target. And so that was kind of what you were staring at the entire time. 4 successful crosses for Atlanta compared to 2. 18 long balls for Atlanta United compared to 13 for DC United. But basically, DC United wanted to play in a phone booth. They're like, you know what? We're going to stack it, and good luck on you trying to penetrate what we're trying to do here. We're just going to kind of stand here. And it goes back to the analogy that I was making in the postgame show, in the full-time report. You know, if someone is in your way in a room and you're trying to get down the stairs and that person is at the edge of the stairs and you're trying to get past them, you're trying to get around them, all that person has to do is slide the chair a little bit and they block your path. You want to go around on the other side and they slide the chair again. And so the options are there for you. It's like, okay, do you try to do things faster to get around to go down the stairs, or do you figure out another path? Do you climb the desk and do whatever? So it was being made very, very difficult by DC United in that phone booth, and Atlanta United was forced to try to figure out how to operate in that. And you saw a couple of times where Atlanta United would try and play the ball all the way to the back to start things over, to try and draw DC United forward so those gaps in between levels could be exploited. And you saw Atlanta United do that, but then the back line for DC would once again retreat, and then they would gum up the works enough to where it would slow Atlanta United down. Then they would get reinforcements, and then forward turn into 6, and it would be a difficult time for Atlanta United on the day. So frustrating day all the way around when it came to Atlanta United and DC United. So after the match, it was a chance for everybody to catch up with folks and find out what they thought. And so first up, it was a conversation that everybody had with Stian Gregerson. We start with Jason and Maddie having their conversation with Stian post-match in the locker room.
They tried only to transition us. Yeah.
So it feels like 5 really different games to start the season. How would you assess the progress from day 1 of preseason to now?
I would say we controlled more of the game, but that was also because they was so low and so compact. But we want also that to control like game today. But yeah, it was a little, missing a little bit tempo on the ball, especially for us in the back line, and so we can open them more and feed our strikers and the wingers. And if we can do that, I think we can come more to the finishing and score goals. Excellent.
What's the most important thing y'all need to work on in the next 15 days, do you think?
No, it's details, you know. It's like chemistry between us, building up like we do, and continue what we do every day. And over time, it will be better. Like you said, see today, we know our position better, and we can find. And like I said, also having more tempo on the ball, and so we can open up, because I think DC will not be the first team who coming here and be so compact. So we have to do that, because it's different between away and home. So yeah.
Y'all got your first shutout of the season tonight. Was that also a function of DC trying to play back so much and only trying to go forward in transition?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Stian Gregerson after the match, and Stian made the point once again to remind everybody that, yeah, this is not going to be the first time that you're going to see somebody look at what DC United did. And I think that you're going to have folks look at this film, and it's going to be where they're going to see what DC did. They're going to see what Atlanta United didn't do. And then it's going to be the adjustments that Atlanta United makes when someone bunkers like this and makes it difficult for you. And wanting to play in this amount of space, how do you get folks to play in this amount of space? And it's part of the conversation that Tata Martino had after the match. We'll hear from Lucas Hoyos in a bit. So Tata after the match, and we talked about it in the full-time report, but Tata said we expected that the opponent was going to wait and play into space. That was a possibility of what to expect. And I think it also happens because of the style that we intend to play ourselves. When you put 2 center backs at midfield, then that reduces the space, and a lot of players come together, and you have to have the clarity to play. It's not just the way that the opponent plays, but also our form forces them to retreat. And about lacking connection in the final third, Tata was asked about that, and he says, I think it's less about errors in passing. We didn't make the right choices, and not only those 2 players, when they were referring to Alexi and to Miguel Almiron. I think all the players in the attack, sometimes we chose well, sometimes we hurry when we have the first player making a run and feel like we have to play them instead of conserving the ball. I think more than errors in our precision, it's about errors in choices. And so obviously you look at errors in choices, especially in a very, very compact space. Then he was asked about the factors leading into the goalless draw. He said he thought the team did a good job of reaching the final third, thought they had good build-up. That was what they were looking for. In the last 30 meters, we were missing clarity. So basically the last 60 yards, in the attacking half, basically they were missing clarity. I think we didn't shoot as much because we weren't accurate with the final pass, or we chose the wrong option. I think the fact that we didn't shoot as much on goal or create as many goal chances or score a goal has to do with us not having the clarity in the last 30 meters, but we did have it in the rest of the field. We'll go over some of the numbers with some of the players from Atlanta United, and you'll notice the passing numbers themselves. But that's what Tata Martino was referring to after the match. We didn't shoot as much on goal or create as many goal chances or score a goal has to do with us not having the clarity in the last 30 meters, but we did have it in the rest of the field. Lucas Hoyos was also brought forth after the match was over, and here's Jason's conversation and his questions with Lucas in the locker room. You will also hear the voice of Justin Veldhuis, who was there to help out was there to help out Lucas in the post-match and help out the assembled media. Here's the conversation, a bit of the conversation with Lucas Hoyos.
Lucas, what did DC do that made it so difficult for you guys tonight?
¿Qué hizo DC para complicar el partido? Creo que hizo un buen partido en lo defensivo. Ellos siempre estuvieron ordenados y bueno, por ahí a nosotros nos costó, pero bueno, creo que es un partido que hay que tomarlo como punto para ver cómo nos pueden llegar a venir a plantearse los próximos equipos. I think they were very good defensively. They were very organized. So they made it difficult for us. But I think we just have to use this game as a learning experience. Try to take note and see what we can do better in these matches.
What's the next step in the team's development to get better?
¿Cuál es el siguiente paso del desarrollo del equipo para seguir mejorando? Bueno, saber o tratar de solucionar cuando los equipos se nos plantean este tipo de partidos. Creo que el equipo en 5 fechas fue creciendo y bueno, es la idea. También con el resultado siempre tiene que ayudar, pero creo que el grupo viene haciendo un buen trabajo en el sentido de crecimiento. To try to find solutions in these type of games where teams are defending us in this way. But overall, I think we're growing over these 5 games. So I think that's the positive. The team is building, and we have to just to continue growing and improving.
Lucas Hoyos after the match. Apologies for the hairdryer, but once again, Lucas Hoyos says the team is growing, and right now the point was made by Jason in post-match in discussing things with Stian. It's like literally 5 different matches that you've seen, 5 different opponents doing 5 different things, and having to navigate all of those different things has been what you've seen from Atlanta United so far, as they're trying to, once again, with all of the new faces, integrate with one another, and in addition, figure out what's going on in front of them with the team that they're facing each and every time out. So frustrating night on a bunch of different levels. I'm not anticipating that this is the only time that you're going to see someone try to bunker to frustrate Atlanta. And when you have teams here in the league that play the way that they do, and then you have teams that play because of one aspect or another, schedule compression, what have you, where they have to make that choice, then you're going to see it happen. So you look at, say, down the line, I'm sitting here looking at the schedule, probably a Montreal in May would be that way. I think that, you look at Red Bulls when they come to town in August with what Michael Bradley is doing, they're going to be pressing, so it won't necessarily be bunkering, but you're going to have to think on the hop, different personality-wise. Sporting Kansas City, when they come here in August, that's probably going to be another one that you'll have to keep an eye on. DC, once again, when they play them in September up at Audi, you have to keep an eye on that one. And once again, Montreal on the road at Stade Saputo. And so it's probably a good half dozen matches here in the season remaining where you're going to have challenges, and I'll phrase it that way, with a team that for one reason or another just wants to try to get into a match and get out of a match after 90 minutes and mitigate damage, for lack of a better word, mitigate the result. So that's, half a dozen things that you're going to keep half a dozen matches to keep an eye on going forward here for the remainder of this year. And so now it's up to you to figure out, as Tata was saying, making the better choices when it comes to teams that are 5, 7, 9, 13 behind the ball. And you've got to make the right choices to draw them out, take advantage of that space, or when they are bunkered, find those opportunities over the top in short space. Alexei Miranchuk had one of those opportunities in the second half where both lines really within about a couple of yards of each other. They were trying to come at him, and it was like basically a 1v3, and he tried to loop it over the top. Chance was there, but it didn't quite connect. So those kinds of moments and those kinds of thoughts for Atlanta United going forward. So work on choices. Be prepared for teams when they come in and bunker over the next several months, and just be ready for it when it comes and try to figure out how to combat and make the right choices going forward, as Tata was saying after the match. Okay, Bart's going to join us in about 10 minutes. So let's get into what happened last night with the twos. Obviously, everybody will go over Twitch pitch comments, and we'll let you know whatever. I know that Ricky was wondering about international break. I know that I think there was a third player that was supposed to be out on international break for Atlanta United. I have also heard Almiron and Galarza, and I heard a third one, but I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. Maybe everybody else can help out in that process. So waiting for the big list to come out when it comes to who's not going to be around in the international window. So looking to find out what that's going to entail with all the folks and all the names. And so I can figure out a master list. There's got to be a master list here somewhere, and it's driving me crazy that I can't find it. That's the larger point, is that I can't find the international list. It's bugging me. Can't find it, and it's bugging me, people. So obviously with Bart, we'll catch up with him on USMNT and all the other things going on, cards and calls and such. Okay. Wanted to get into the twos before Bart comes in about 10 minutes, unless we're going to try and test him real quick and see what's going on. So no? Okay. So Bart's just testing the green room. Okay. So that's all right. Bart's waving me off already. I didn't know if he wanted to come in for a cameo to test it or not while we were getting into the twos. So, okay. We're going to discuss the twos. I'm going to play the first half highlights for you. And this is some of the first half highlights because it was a very, very back and forth match involving Atlanta United 2 and Crown Legacy. So here's your first half highlights, and that will kind of bridge us into part of the discussion with Bart, because I did have some homework for him, because there were a lot of red cards in Major League Soccer this past weekend. And there was a red card in the matchup with Atlanta United 2 and Crown Legacy that these highlights are going to kind of set up in our discussion with Bart coming back at the top of the hour. So here are the first half highlights. Jason on the call last night here on the network. And here's what Atlanta United tried to do. Atlanta United 2, what they tried to do last night against Crown Legacy. Once again, courtesy of us.
Short to Gill. Chonqui, low cross, top of the arc, slip through to Dunbar. Dunbar with the shot over the bar. Big save from Tyler Miller. He got his hand up to it. Might have been going over or off the crossbar anyway. Good little slip pass from Santi Pita. That might have been intended for the roof. Dunbar forces the save from Miller. Now it's a corner for Atlanta in the 11th minute. Chonqui with the overlap. Dunbar cuts inside. It's forward to Chonqui into the 18. The cross, it's deflected, eventually cleared up into the air by Sango Kisa. Headed away by Cleary. Only as far as Majub on the left, who steps forward. He dribbles past Richmond. Majub low cross into the hands of Tyler Miller in the 6th. Delivers back post. Chonqui volley. Nobody knew where it was. Somehow it stays out. It rattled around. Did not find a home. Atlanta scrambled to win it back in the middle third. Chaotic scenes at the Sportsplex for Matthews. Chonqui with the straight volley off of the corner. It hit a defender. I think it hit Miller. Neither one knew where it was, and it just spun there in the 6-yard box. Great reaction from the MLS veteran Tyler Miller. Might have paid the price for that one, as he had to go down to the feet of Chonqui to get there. Good cross from Gill to the backside. Neely tried to give it back to, I guess, Cleary. Not on the same page. Chonqui came through, got to it, but Miller was able to stuff him at the corner of the 6, and he's back up now, gets the drop ball. Down the middle for Liam Butts. Butts, it actually falls for him. He turns. He's driving on Johnson. Liam Butts, big save Miller, still alive in the 6, but Dunbar tries to put it home, and Miller makes another save.
Tyler Miller, very, very busy last night for Crown Legacy in the first 45 minutes of their matchup. Oh, great, a client-side exception. Good work. All right, so last night you had Tyler Miller, who was incredibly busy, and it was a scoreless first 45 minutes. And it was one of those opportunities for Atlanta United 2, once again, getting shots on target and not getting it in the back of the net. Tyler Miller had, I want to say, 5 first half saves. I think he finished with 8, if memory serves. And so you end up at the half with the numbers being like this. 57-43 in possession, Atlanta United 2. 7 fouls for Crown Legacy, none for Atlanta United 2. And it should have been more than the 7 fouls, and the severity of them should have been more than it was in the first 45 minutes. Mentioned Jay Fortune in our conversation with Abe, and with Jay, there was a moment in the 27th where it was a yellow card. Basically, it was studs into the calf, and Jay basically gets trucked from behind. And so you get that moment, and you end up, Jay got trucked, and Jay got scraped with cleats, and then there was another moment where a player gets trucked from behind. So 2 separate moments, could have been 2 reds. And you ended up with a yellow card in each. Was Tony Dondell and Koulibaly each getting yellows in the first half on those particular reactions. So you end up with 2 yellows that could have easily been 2 reds, and then the tenor of the match would have changed from a Crown Legacy perspective. But it was still 11v11, and you end up in the second half with, like I said, those numbers, 7-0 on fouls. 7 fouls called on Crown Legacy, none against Atlanta United 2. Then, literally in the first 5 minutes of the second half, you end up with a foul called on Adrian Gill. And it was the first foul literally called on Atlanta United 2. Gill is called for a foul and he gets a card. Was it worthy by comparison? No. But you kind of got the sense that because of the disparity in the first half, 7 fouls to none, that it might try to steer its way back the other way. And it did by the time we were done. But 56th minute, you end up with a situation and this is stuff that I want to kind of get into with Bart here in a little bit. But 41st minute, I'm going to take you back. 41st minute, Atlanta United has a set piece, and denying the opportunity to go quickly, a Crown Legacy player stood, and we've seen it in a bunch of different competitions. A Crown Legacy player stands about a foot away from the ball. Center ref decides, okay, you're standing too close, kind of waves him back and tells him to go back 10. No card. Okay, so you've set your precedent right there. Literally the same thing happens in the 56th minute with Gill trying to deny a quick start for Crown Legacy. And then the center ref decides to light up Gill again for doing the same thing that was going on in the first half that did not get a card, much less a discussion and a wave off. So then you have Gill getting a second yellow for standing in the way of a free kick opportunity for Crown Legacy. And for something that wasn't called in the first half, called instantaneously in the second half, Gill is sent off because he has 2 yellows. Jose Silva wants to have a conversation with the center ref. Center ref lights Jose Silva up too with a yellow on his own. And so then, obviously, the tenor of the match changes from that point. So when you look at the final score, you're going to see the final score being 3-0. But it was because of several ways that the match was administered / adjudicated. Now, we always talk about game state a lot. And that's why we have 2 hours Monday through Friday to discuss these kinds of things, so we can give it the context that we're looking for, so we can examine what's going on, and so we can all be more informed when it comes to these kinds of events if we ever see them again, but just to give context to what's going on. So you end up with Atlanta United for the final, for the twos, for the final 34 plus minutes, down a man. And they did have a couple of opportunities with fresh legs late, but it was Crown Legacy trying to chase after, and Atlanta United trying to maintain on tired legs, and Jose Silva trying to manage subs to make sure that players that were gassed were swapped out and you could have the energy to defend that you could for a full 34 minutes. But you had a rebound off a set piece. You had a turnover, and it was a quick pass into space, and it gets past John O'Ransom, and then you had goal number 3 inside the 18, north of 90-plus minutes. So if you look at the final score, you're going to sit there and go, well, they lost 3-0, obviously, and then you take your normal talking points in a situation like that and go, oh, well, obviously this happened, or this must have happened, or this must have happened. Not the case. This was a 3-0 score that a scoreline that did not represent the context of what happened in the match. Jay Fortune plays a full 90 minutes. Take that, carry it forward. And also in the match, you had, once again, the starting lineups that were there, same starting lineup that won against Huntsville City in Athens. And so Toto Majub comes up strong again as one of your center backs. Daniel Chica, probably one of the better pickups of the offseason, being there for right back, but not afraid to engage and play. Jono Ransom, once again, having a big night. Santi Pita, once again, showing very, very well. So just when you, and that's why we want to talk about it on Mondays, because when you have what you're looking at in a situation where Atlanta United 2 loses and look at a scoreline, it's far different than the scoreline than what you were administered when it came to those kinds of things. Okay, it is hour number 2, so we're going to try something. We're going to see if the Russians have invaded Bart's, that they have invaded Bart's studio space and continue in his cement tomb to keep him from administering the talk that he seems to be able to administer in other places except this one. I'm guessing the refs don't want to have you discuss anything. So how are you, sir?
Well, I am okay, John. Is my audio okay?
Yeah, your audio's fine.
Okay. It sounds perfectly clear when I'm in the back room.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, this is good. And then a lot of times when I go live, it says, no, you're not good. So
okay,
hopefully today we're good.
Yeah, so hopefully today we're good, and we'll learn from that. Okay. All right. So the setup that I gave, I guess we'll start with cards and calls because of all the reds and because of all the things, and handling balls outside the 14 in the Bronx apparently seems to be a thing. Just ask both Max Crepeau and Dane St. Clair, apparently this season. I wanted to discuss with you what happened with the twos last night and the man in the middle. And I know I gave you a little bit of homework this morning to kind of look at a couple of things. Mm-hmm. If there were VAR in MLS NEXT Pro, there would be a lot of players that would be sitting out a lot of games. And it was an adventure last night at times watching Atlanta United 2 and the man in the middle and having to navigate basically a seesaw when it came to making all kinds of calls and things. Did you catch any of the homework? Were you able to scrub that quick at all?
I did get to watch the suggested viewing that you gave me. So which one do you want to start with? Do you want to start with the first half foul that Crown Legacy committed?
Sure. We'll go in temporal order.
Okay, great. I would say this is early on-ish in the match, but we've played enough match time where we're not worried about throwing something off because of an early card of any sort, right? We are, 20-some minutes into the match. So at this point, I don't think the referee should be considering, what happens if I give a red card or whatever at this juncture. If you get a red card 20-some minutes into a match, you've earned it. Now, I'm assuming you think that tackle should have been a red card.
Yeah. Studs in.
This is a very I would say this is a very dangerous challenge. I think that does rise to that occasion. Now, is it excessive force or is it reckless? And that's kind of the question that you have to weigh as the official here, because reckless is obviously a yellow card, serious foul play with excessive force is a red card. I will also say that one of the issues we have here, John, is for some reason they were able to show replays of Adrian Gill's tackles in the second half.
Yeah.
Did not get to see a replay of this foul on the stream. So congrats to the folks up in Charlotte doing the stream. They did a great job of covering their tracks. I think if you look at this on replay, you probably see an elevated foot. And I think that's what we're looking for here is how high up on the leg was contact made. Because, yes, studs go into the challenge. The challenge is made at a very fast pace, sliding on the ground. These are all things that we are considering when we're looking for elevating from just a yellow card to a red card, because Again, red card means you're using excessive force. You're not just being reckless. You're going in with force unnecessary for the action you're taking. So from my vantage point, I'm going, okay, yellow card immediately sounds great. I would have liked to have seen a replay because from my camera view on my phone watching on YouTube, I absolutely say, yes, yellow card, here we go.
Okay.
In the moment, looking at it from 15 yards away, possibly thinking that the red card should have come out if you're the center official looking at this going, oh, that's bad. And again, we're looking at a couple things, mostly though, where do the studs make contact? And it's really hard for me to tell given the information I'm given.
Sure. Okay. Then I do want to get into momentum and seesawing and correcting your numbers and all this kind of stuff. But I want to go to the two Adrian Gill moments where in the 50th, literally, no fouls had been called on Atlanta United 2 in the first 45 minutes. Yet the first foul called on the twos in the second half on Gill is light him up. And you're going, okay,
John.
Yeah.
Just because it's your first foul doesn't mean it's not deserving of a yellow card.
Okay, fine.
And this was very classic stopping a promising attack. So this is why he got the yellow card, was stopping a promising attack. And, very much a tackle from behind, but in an attempt to stop a promising attack. Okay. So most of the time we see that as someone pulling you back or whatever, but a foul like that can be very much considered stopping a promising attack. And I'm pretty sure if the referee report were given, that would be what he was given a yellow card for.
Okay. Then let me go 6 minutes later, and with a precedent set in the 41st minute where Crown Legacy has a player basically standing that far away from the ball to prevent a free kick situation from happening, and referee just kind of going, go about your way, sir. Then Gill does the same thing, 56th minute, and he gets lit up for a yellow card in the same situation when the precedent is set in the first half of a wave off, and then Gill gets lit up in the second half. What about there?
So concede a free kick.
Sure.
We are supposed to respect the 10-yard distance. When you don't do that, you put yourself at risk for receiving a yellow card. That's just the reality. Sure. Now, I don't disagree that there are times where we are inconsistent with the application and the adjudication, but I think what happens here is Adrian is not the player who commits the foul, and he's not really that close to the ball when the foul is committed. He jogs over and stands in front of the ball, and then Crown takes the kick, it hits him, and that's when you see the yellow card given. So I think, unfortunately for Adrian, he got two yellow cards that are more procedural than anything. I don't personally have a problem with any of them.
Okay.
But I understand the frustration in the context of the match with inconsistency.
Okay. Then let me ask about consistency or inconsistency, or however you wish to look at it. So when you have called, when you've tilted your foul numbers in the first half, like no fouls called on Atlanta United 2 at all, Crown Legacy commits 7 fouls. Then do you see, and this is more of an authoritative question than just asking, do you see more often than not center refs try to overcorrect to try to even those numbers up so it doesn't look like there's any kind of favoritism one way or the other? Do you see that kind of thing happen where
that's not something that I have ever done or we talk about, John? That's not something that is on the mind, because we all understand that, well, yes, maybe I need to be a little more mindful of the team that I haven't called fouls on, because maybe I'm missing something that they're doing. And that's something that at halftime you might talk with your ARs or your fourth official to say, hey, am I missing that? But we all understand there are teams that just foul a lot, and there are teams that don't foul a lot. But really, John, the most important thing is that the first team only had 0.31 XG in their game, and that's really, the problem here.
And I just wanted to ask about the whole procedural thing, and it's just within the context of the match, you have precedent set and all those kinds of things, and that's why I wanted to have you kind of scrub the twos highlights and have us and walk through from your perspective what you saw. In addition to that, in Major League Soccer, there were an ish ton of reds.
We play them again next week. Sorry,
2 weeks,
I'm looking at the schedule right now.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
That'll be fun.
These scheduling quirk, in the same location, scheduling quirk. Don't ask me how that popped open, but it might have been
fun.
Yeah, so that'll be save what happened last night and roll it into your thoughts for what happens on the 3rd or the 5th of April next time out. So so there's that to look into next time these two teams combine. There were a couple of moments on the weekend that were red cards or not, and I guess did you have the chance to did you have the chance, sir, as we go to the Bronx again and go to the U12 pitch, the 106/68?
So actually, John, I did. I actually refereed a game in the Bronx at the U12 stadium. Do you want to know how I did that?
How'd you do that?
So in MLS Next Academy, which I referee, the U13 division moves the goals from the end line to the 6 on each side. So yes, I did referee a game in the.
So you know what pinball is all about there, and so when you touch.
Well, no, because they're 13, and it makes sense to shorten the field because they're 13.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you have that, and so it ends up being more like 106/68.
It makes sense for their competition level, not for MLS, and still somehow a goalkeeper thought he had more room than he did.
Yeah. So you are of the mind that, without question, Dane St. Clair handled the ball outside the 14.
Well, yeah, John, typically when you catch the ball outside of the boundaries of the penalty area, that's a handling offense. Yes. At what point you have to factor in the Messi tax for something like that. But this was, in my opinion, an egregious miss from those calling this game. Now, I can understand why. I will come to the defense of the officials a little bit, John.
Okay.
I can understand why this may not have been called if the center referee is obviously not in a position to make this call. Like, that's not something that. Now, granted, most of the time you can see, he's definitely outside the penalty area, but you don't want to be an automatic whistle on this. You want to check with your assistant, who should, in theory, be keeping up with that ball and say, oh yeah, he was definitely outside the penalty area. Just because you want to make sure you get this type of call correct, because this is not your vantage point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. When it comes to administering the call specifically, you end up with now. Is it okay for, and this is something that gets lost in translation at times, is it okay for the keeper's body outside of his hands? So, like, do we extend the edge of the 18 up to infinity, and as long as the ball is either on the line or behind and the keeper's body is outside in the arc, is that okay? Where is the okay, and where is the line drawn in this situation, literally?
So, yeah, I think we've talked about this on here, but the lines contain the space that they make the boundary of.
Okay.
Right? So you go to the farthest edge of that line, which I think for MLS is about 3 inches wide.
Sure.
4 inches maybe. You go to the farthest line out there. Then you have to consider that the whole entire ball has to be beyond that line.
Got it.
Right? Okay. So, and the same thing as like a goal, right? the whole entire ball has to have crossed fully over the goal line. The whole entire ball has to be fully outside of the penalty area.
Okay.
And when you just look at it, it's not St. Clair necessarily is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the ball. And look at this. Ball, to me, very clearly looks outside the penalty area, and he is touching it. He then catches it and brings it back in, turns around, and everything. This was this was just a missed call. It just was. I'm sorry. And now, do I think it would have been here's the thing, John. Okay. Do I think this is necessarily red card worthy for Dogso? I don't necessarily think so, because I don't think in this instance, especially, Dane is not the last defender back, and I don't think that the attacker is necessarily in possession of the ball to claim that to claim all the other deeds of Dogso. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does.
So at least in my vantage point, maybe not Dogso, which means, John, we're not, probably not taking this to VAR review.
Okay. Just checking, because I wanted to once again reinforce where the rule takes place and where what we need to be looking out for in these situations. But yes, it looked like that, and there was a camera down the line, so I don't know why the men upstairs didn't sit there and go, okay, let's look at this and see that Dane is inside the arc and the ball is not in that imaginary plane that would associate being either in or outside of the 18.
Well, the arc has nothing to do with the boundary of the 18, of the penalty area. The arc only exists to keep players 10 feet away from the penalty spot. A couple things more, though, as I continue to look at this. I do think that the AR is in a position to call this. So, again, should have talked about it a little bit better on the comms set.
Okay.
I'm not confident that this would be a Dogso situation, but I think it's a little crazy that this was not at least checked for video review, because this is definitely one of those where you go, well, is ahead of the defender in pursuit of this ball. Now, when Dane does catch the ball, the defender is behind him, so he does recover. The ball is heading pretty much toward goal. I mean, I think that's fair to say, right? So defenders, maybe. Direction of play, definitely toward goal. Distance to goal, well, we're talking about something at the edge of the penalty area, so pretty close, right? Distance from the attacker to the ball is I would say pretty close. If Dane doesn't catch it, the attacker's a couple yards away. That's reasonably close. So, again, there are factors, and I just am shocked this wasn't fully reviewed. I'm not saying it should have been, first off, I'm saying it should have been called a handball on the field. I do want to say that. Yeah. But under video review, I can't promise that this would have been definitively said, because you can't go back and can't go back to review handball. The only situation would be we'd have to go back and say, yes, this is a handball, and it is a red card for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. That's the only way VAR can truly intervene and make a decision, because a handball is just a foul. You don't review fouls. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not a reviewable offense.
Okay. Next one on the board.
Yeah.
And so I just want, like I said, I know that there are folks that will sit there and ask occasionally, all right, where's the line? Where does it end? What's with what counts? Is it the ball? Is it in the plane? That kind of stuff. Next one I had on the board was Kamal Miller and Joao Klaus in Portland. And it was, I think it started as a yellow and then it got upgraded. And you end up with, and I'm shuttling, and I'm zaprudering it. I'm full disclosure, I'm zaprudering the play, and the second look from behind with Kamal Miller it looks like it's a good stomp on the Achilles of Klaus, and it gets upgraded from yellow to red, and Kamal was confused by the call. So when you look at Kamal Miller v. Joao Klaus, what comes into your mind?
Well, again, as we talked about with the twos game against Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Having the availability of video review does, in fact, help referees, right? I think that's what we see from this is that, okay, you look at it, you go, again, I prefer that a referee not make the full red card decision on the field, knowing we have VAR to elevate if needed. Because while we do want to make sure we're keeping players safe, sure. And this is obviously, you got a red card, it's deemed dangerous, right? Like that's what a red card is for. When you're looking at something like this, you are looking at that serious foul play element, which does endanger the opponent. So giving him a yellow card in the moment is saying, hey, that's a bad challenge. Don't do that again. Right? I mean, that's literally what a yellow card is for. A red card is, hey, that's a bad challenge. You don't get a chance to even try to do that again. Right? Like you're gone. Right. And so for this, it makes sense to let's give the yellow card. We do get the opportunity to take a second look because a lot of times this is happening at very high speed. The referee may not be in perfect position to make this particular type of judgment, right? And so with the assistance of video review, the video assistant referee is able to say, hey, actually, yeah, take a look at that for a red card. And so I think that's the perfect application of that here, right? Is, okay, we'll give the yellow card on the field so that we call the foul. We know that misconduct has happened. And not that you're, as we talked about with the twos, not that you're satisfied, but you can live with, all right, he got a yellow card for that foul. But unlike with the twos game, you do have a chance here to say, well, that was a little more dangerous than we thought at first. And again, we're looking at contact point, we're looking at launch point sometimes. I mean, that's what I had a problem with the twos, is more the launch point than anything. He committed several yards before that. And so you are looking at a lot of factors to determine if he used excessive force for that foul. And again, this is one where you do get a chance to just take a second look and go, oh yeah, that's bad. And yeah, I think they did get it right in the end.
Okay. We actually have a requested play, and it comes from Dell. Opinion on the Amad Diallo no PK call for Manchester United?
I have to look at it, so let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, so if we had dialing music, we would probably play that for you.
My general opinion is, if there wasn't a penalty called for Manchester United, it's probably the correct call. But that's neither here nor there. Let me see if I can find this. Okay, I found the highlights. So let's see.
So we'll actually go to Sport Time FB. They have the review. Sport 1T. Actually 2 T's. Sport Time FB. They have the quick couple of frames. It looks like Diallo makes
Sport Time.
Yeah, FB.
FC.
FB. Like
B.
Yeah. Sport Time FB. They have the quick like the quick little couple of frame review of the particular
play. Is that on the Twitters?
Yes, on the Twitters. And it looks to me like Diallo's making a meal out of it. It's like, okay, slightest contact, and he kind of, the second he sees that someone's grabbing, he decides he's going to spin and hit the ground. So I think that the ref was right to let play continue, at least from my perspective of it. Literally, you see Diallo charging forward, little tippy-tappy feet, and then he's grabbed, and then he just kind of wants to me, it looks like he's exacerbating, and he's trying to spin and fall at the same time. So I think that Diallo is probably making more of it. If he had let Stuart Atwell just kind of, if he had let the play continue, and it got more physical, Stuart Atwell probably could have made the call inside the 18, but I'm thinking that Diallo is making more of it than he probably should
have. I mean, the defender grabs and pushes him. So I might have to actually give Manchester United some sympathy here that they probably feel like they should have got a penalty kick out of this. I can see why they're upset.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, if I'm looking at it, I understand why they're upset, but at the same time, Diallo looks like he's trying to spin away and make a meal of it and exacerbate the grabs. So I can see it's a judgment call, but I think that, depending on how you have administered that kind of contact earlier in the match, and I think that there was a play on Bournemouth where earlier in the match looked like you were given a penalty against Manchester United for basically the same thing, where attackers going into the 18 and Harry Maguire with the pull and the push down, and that's given, where this one with Diallo is not.
Yeah, no, I think Harry Maguire's is way more clear cut. This one does feel like a bit of actual defending, which I think again is why I understand why this is not called, but I again think that the Manchester United supporters have some level of grievance they're allowed to.
Right. Okay. So so Dell has sent me more of a ground level ISO on the Bournemouth play, but yeah, so Harry Maguire grabbing from behind, kind of grabs the jersey.
Look, anytime you do any action toward the attacker from behind, you're putting yourself at greater risk of having not only a foul called, but a penalty kick called. The difference very clearly is in the Diallo instance, the defender is at least on the same plane as him. There's it's mostly in the same tussle for the ball. I do think, again, Diallo has the slight edge of the space and control of that space in front of the ball. So for me, this could be a penalty kick.
Yeah.
But the difference is the angle at which this foul is committed. One is a little more shoulder to shoulder. The other one is really in the back. So, like, if you're trying to have, if you want the Harry Maguire call to be overturned, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Just because this wasn't called a foul doesn't mean that they're not the same. They're not equitable, right? That's they're two very different instances.
Yes. So, and to your point, I think that if you were going parallel to goal, then you're going to be not necessarily as much in the attack as if you are with Denilson as he was heading toward the net and Harry Maguire grabs him from behind. Okay. Perpendicular versus parallel. I didn't know we were doing geometry today. Okay. I don't know if you have heard this, Bart, but there's a national team that is going to be actually playing at Atlanta Stadium. And they're going to be it'll still technically be Mercedes-Benz for another couple of months. But we've had one substitution, and it is Schulte in, Celentano out for injury concern. And obviously,
well, he did ship 5 goals on Saturday, so
and that's injury and that was and the injury might be more between the ears more than anything else at this point. Just the shock of the numbers that have been given up by the defense of FC Cincinnati in recent weeks. So no, I get it. I mean, give him
a team that shut out Atlanta United too. That's impressive.
Well, that was early on, and
I'm sorry, John. I'm supposed to come with facts and figures. Cincinnati's defense shut out Atlanta United. That's a fact. There you go.
Yes, and that is a fact from earlier in the season, and I will grant you that. So when you look at this roster,
been shut out 3 times in 5 games. That's right.
As they're trying to continue to work out their rhythm offensively, yes, sir. That is you are.
Okay. We had one win, so we're okay. That's right. So sorry.
No, I didn't. I'm not
We
saying
looked
that
good
either.
for a whole 50 minutes.
I'm
We're all right.
not saying that either, sir. I'm just trying to, once again, see, this is where we get into our discussions, meaning you and me, where it's I'm trying to look at progression. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it game by game. And 5 different games, I think it's been 5 different teams that you've had to look at. So, like I said, I know that we will always have our back and forth.
You're allowed to say a team is not performing to the standard that which they should be performing. I will say that I think this year Atlanta United's team is probably not, like I've said, I don't think Atlanta United is going to be a good team this year because I think rightfully we are actually trying to retool a roster, trying to put together a team that should be good.
Yeah.
That said, I will also agree that there has been improvement with Matias Galarza, who has greatly impacted the way our ball is able to move from midfield to a forward line, not just vertically, but also horizontally, actually finding space in the wing, which is great. But
the final result's not there.
The positive from Saturday is we didn't concede a goal for the first time in what feels like 72 months. So that in itself is good. But
at the end of the day, you and I will agree that at the end of the day, they're not finishing their chances in the final third, and that's not good enough. I think we will both stipulate to
that. I will have to do my semi-annual reminder that my claim to fame is Sean Johnson scored on me in high school. So there's that side product of Brookwood High School.
Yes.
Several mini games against Brookwood in my time at South Gwinnett. Did not win a single one of them.
Well, because I heard he was good when he was in high school.
No, like Sean Johnson playing forward at Brookwood High School because, because they had a goalkeeper who was pretty darn good, but like he was just that much better than everyone else. Period.
Wow.
And I played with a lot of the guys at Brookwood who were very good, and he was still like very good. So back then he was a little bit skinnier, though, I will say. Weren't we all?
I don't. Yeah, you ain't kidding, brother. So we have this team that is coming here, and when you look at expectations and these 2 friendlies in particular. Yes, they're friendlies. They may not necessarily be all that friendly, but honestly, as we kick the tires on this first match, because obviously when you come back after the first match a week from today, we'll have the first match to talk about heading into the second one. But honestly, what are you looking for when it comes to this first match here at Atlanta Stadium coming up this weekend?
I think it's a good, again, time to point out that results and performances matter. Now, that said, you don't want the result to look bad. And I think that's kind of the thing for these 2 friendlies is you are playing 2 teams, at least one that I think has a legitimate shot to say, or a legitimate claim to say, hey, watch for us to win a World Cup this summer. That's Portugal. The other one, Belgium, is, a very, very good team. I think they are coming down off of their golden generation of teams that, also were very underwhelming. But both of these teams are better than you, right? I mean, you can do it in a number of ways, but when you look at the badge FC of it all, they're obviously better. When you look at the just pure talent they have on the field, they are better. That's fine, right? I think maybe when you look at the U.S., you have Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic. Those are guys that are at the same level as some of the others on Belgium's team, but they are better than you. So the thing here is, as it will be in a World Cup, how do you rise to the occasion? Because while, yes, friendly performances are what we're judging on, we're not judging on the result. Your performance, part of that performance anyway, is not just did I pass the ball to my teammates enough? It's did I rise to the temperature of the match? Did I rise to the moment of the match? And these are big moment matches because you are preparing, John, to play in a World Cup at home. And that carries weight. So are you mentally able to get your body and your mind to that level of this is big, this is important? Because just executing what Pochettino tells you on the whiteboard is not going to be good enough at a World Cup.
So you're looking at Brady, Freeze, Schulte, and Turner in net, 9 defenders. Arfston, Freeman, McKenzie, Ream, Richards, Jedi, Miles, who got a red on his own, also on the weekend. Joe Scally and Austin
we didn't talk about that one because there were some mad Cincinnati fans for a very clear red card foul, by the way.
Well, we'll circle back now that we mentioned Miles by name. Midfield, Berhalter, Johnny, Weston McKinney, Aiden Morris, Gio Reyna, Christian Roldan, Tanner Tessman, Malik Tillman. Forwards, Brendan Aronson, Big Pat, Valerian Balogun, Ricardo Pepe, whose a transfer deal has stalled for the 98th time, Christian Pulisic, and so you look at the 27 that are getting ready for this matchup in 5 days' time at Atlanta Stadium at 3:30 in the afternoon. So when you look at this 27, who in your mind are you sitting there and you're going, why is individual X here? And is there someone else that could be better served with this window?
Honestly, John, and this is true. I don't have any real qualms with players here because part of it is I'm resigned to the fact that some of them are just going to be here. But the other part is, you look at specifically Christian Roldan, Aiden Morris, and Sebastian Berhalter. I think I said on Friday, they're a little redundant. But with Tyler Adams out, it makes sense to bring in a group of guys who are kind of fighting for that spot on the roster, right? I mean, I think we all expect Tyler Adams will be okay come the World Cup, or at least we hope. His staying back in Bournemouth is a little just precautionary, it seems like, I think is a fair word, but it's still concerning. So you are having a little bit of a tryout for who's going to be the actual on-field replacement for Tyler Adams in a game like this. Again, a game against a team that is going to have a claim to say we should probably possibly have a shot to win a World Cup. Which, by the way, I will say, this is another sidebar to the Belgium friendly. So as we know, in our group, Paraguay, Australia, and probably Turkey, we played all 3 of those, right, in the past year. If you look at the group, if we win the group or finish second in the group, we are paired with Belgium's group, basically.
Yes.
In the knockout round, either in the first round or the second round. So again, this is you might see this team at the World Cup type thing. So you do get an actual comp you get real film of who can survive that test. So the central midfield spots are the ones that are the most intriguing. Everywhere else is pretty much, I mean, Serginho Dest isn't here, so Freeman and Scally will have a chance to see who can play that role, but it won't be the same. Serginho Dest is not, they're not like for Serginho Dest. No one is. But, everywhere else, it's not really like, oh, why is this person here? I can't believe this person got left out. We even have a Gio Reyna sighting. So, you can't be too, we're there. There are guys who are left out because of injury, and there are guys who are left out because they haven't really been part of the squad. So I don't really think this roster is controversial at all.
Okay. You mentioned the Belgium squad for the matchups against the U.S. and Mexico. Senda Lamens, Mats Sels, Martin van de Voort in net. Defenders Castagna, De Bost, Maxim de Kuiper, Connie de Winter, Brandon Michel, Meunier, Nathan Ngoy, Joaquin Sayes, and Arthur Teate. Midfield, De Bruyne, De Cat, Onana, Raskin, Yuri Tielemans, Hans Vanaken, and Axel Witsel. At forward, De Ketelaere, Doku, Goetz, Lukaku, Luka Bacchio, Openda, Salamaker, Stassen, and Leandro Trossard. So there are some...
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun time to have to defend against, John.
No, especially when you have a power forward like Romelu Lukaku, what Trossard can do off of set pieces, what De Bruyne can do to create. It is a good test between the ears for the U.S. men's national team going up against Belgium.
Again, this is a team that you probably will face at a World Cup. This is the team that you have to beat if you want to go far in a World Cup. That's for sure, right? Are you up for the moment? That's the question.
Yeah. And I will be intrigued to see if you are looking at this as, okay, I want to see how my number ones go up against theirs, regardless of what the lineup looks like, or are you going to sit there and try and troubleshoot, much like you might have done against Portugal? Are you going to troubleshoot against Belgium and try to sit there and have questions in your mind and apply them to the matchup against Belgium? So that's what I'm looking forward to with these matchups as they come here over the next 8 days.
And to answer Dell's question, I can't say what Belgium will be doing with their roster, if it'll be, like you said, 1v1s.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a competitive match. There are players on both rosters, right, that are competing for those final spots on the World Cup roster, right? I mean, obviously the U.S. is 27 players.
Yep.
At least one of those is coming to the World Cup, at least on the official roster. I think we're getting 26 to the World Cup. If we're only getting 23, I forget exactly if they've made that decision. I'm just assuming they're at 26. But if regardless, you only get a 23-man match day roster, right? So again, you're competing for those final spots on your roster. So yes, competitive in that regard.
Yeah. You cannot, you get 26. You do get 26.
Yeah.
So that is
I thought it was, but it's 23 for the match day roster is what it is, right? Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So it's
numbers, John. I didn't go to school for math.
You and me both. That I am not calling you both. So when we've got all of this to wrap up, what about Miles Robinson did you see in that particular red?
Oh, no, it's just a red card. Sorry.
Okay.
Cincinnati fans were all up in arms. I'm like, you can't pull a guy from behind when he's going straight toward goal. That's just like a no-duh thing. Don't do that.
So don't be Harry Maguire is what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, if you move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
don't do that.
So here was the response, because you did have a pool reporter ask the question to Pro, and they asked the submitted question. And once again, this is key in these situations. When you do have a pool reporter ask, you have to ask a very specifically worded question, or you're going to get a nebulous answer that will only give you more questions than the question that you presented it the way that you did. So the submitted question to Pro: can you explain what made FC Cincinnati number 12, Miles Robinson's challenge on Montreal number 9, Prince Owusu, in the 59th minute rise to the level of denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity? How do you differentiate that from a 50-50 challenge? Response: prior to Owusu playing the ball, Robinson pulled Owusu, which forced him to slow him down. This allowed Robinson to catch up and didn't allow Owusu to shoot the way that he wanted to. All four considerations for denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity were present, and given that the initial hold was not part of an attempt to play or challenge for the ball, the final outcome was a penalty and a red card.
Yeah, so real quick before I jump out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Dog so red in the penalty area requires an illegitimate play on the ball, and that was discussed in the referee response, that you can't pull someone and say that's a legitimate play on the ball, that especially from behind. That those two are not compatible. And so therefore you get a red card. I don't like them categorizing the question as a 50-50 challenge. That's dumb as all get out. But because that was not a 50-50 challenge. But it's a red card, and the referee said as much. So
there you go. All right. So this week with Soccer for USPod, what up?
Hopefully have an episode for y'all on Friday, breaking down the roster and looking ahead at these two friendlies. Going to be recording with Thomas, who I normally record with, and probably someone else, just to get another perspective on this as we get closer to the World Cup.
There you go. Please go answer your phone and tell them that, yes, we kept you long, and that's what we are traditionally prone to do. And there goes Irish goodbye from Bart Keeler. Okay, so there you go. All right, let's go around the planet and let you know what else is going on, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We'll keep an eye on that as well. So it is going to be Yanks Abroad, and we'll get into that. So, yeah, the Pepe deal stalled again. PSV and Fulham working on it for a second time, not 723, but nevertheless a second time, failed to get it over the end line. There was an agreement on price. 4 letters said it was in the region of 40 million euro for a transfer that would take effect during the summer window after the World Cup. And he, in the last year, has dealt with a knee injury and a broken forearm, even flew to London and cleared a medical last week. Fulham wanted to be able to pull out of the deal before Pepe was registered in the summer if he was injured. And so Ernie Stewart tells ESPN, and Ernie Stewart is PSV's director of football affairs, quote, "That issue of responsibility for the player was a very important detail throughout. We did get a bit closer on it, but in the end, we were still too far apart. Ricardo really wanted this move. It's mainly a frustrating situation for Ricardo. Of course, we're happy to keep a good striker at the club, end quote. So basically, they were like, Fulham was like, well, if he injures himself between now and then, we don't want him, or we might want him at a knockoff rate. And so PSV was like, nah, fam, that's not how this is going to play. And so it's now back off the table, and they'll probably come back on the table once the season is over, and they'll try to work on price and all of those things. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. Yanks abroad. Folarin Balogun got the late winner from the spot. 5 straight Liga matches with a goal. Monaco 6 straight wins, 2-1 win. Christian Pulisic got an assist for AC Milan in their win over Torino. First goal contribution of 26, spanning 12 matches. Malik Tillman scored his 5th Bundesliga goal of the season, first since the end of January in the 3-3 tie with Heidenheim. And we mentioned Miles Robinson and Roman Celentano. Jedi yellow carded in the 3rd straight match, 3-1 win over Burnley, moved from Fulham from 11th to 9th. Brendan Aronson, 67 minutes and a goalless draw with Brentford. Chris Richards was idle this past weekend. We mentioned Folarin Balogun. In France, Mark McKenzie went 90 minutes in a 1-0 win over Lorient. Tim Weah went 90 minutes in a loss to Lille. Tanner Tessman had a cup of coffee in the matchup against Monaco. The comments on L'Equipe on Balogun, even hampered by Niakate's presence, the American continued his impressive performance, scoring his 5th goal in 5 league matches, converting a crucial penalty, proving decisive for Monaco's fate. His runs and layoffs were impressive before the break, particularly in the play where he would have provided an assist were it not for Afonso Moreira's intervention. Germany. Mentioned Malik Tillman, and once again, Build's ratings go from 1 being the highest to 6 being the lowest. So try to think in reverse. Malik Tillman had a middle-of-the-road 3, had a goal in 82 minutes. Christopher Lund, 90 minutes in Cologne and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Joe Scally, a 5 on a low scale of 6, 87 minutes in the draw with Cologne. Noah Kai Banks, a 5 on a scale of 6, playing less than 45 in a loss to Stuttgart. Damian Downs was a sub. Cole Campbell was a sub. Leonard Maloney had a cup of coffee. Gio Reyna was on the bench. James Sands is out for the year. Kevin Paredes is injured and did not play. We mentioned Christian Pulisic, where Gazzetta dello Sport goes from 1 being low to 10 being high. We talked about Pulisic, talked about Weston McKennie. Yunus Musa had a cup of coffee for Atalanta. Benjamin Kramaski is injured right now for Parma. Spain, Johnny got a yellow card in the 3-2 loss at Real Madrid, suspended for Atleti's match against Barca when he returns from USMNT duty. Diego Cocan was on the bench for Barca in their win against Rayo Vallecano. We also mentioned everyone in Major League Soccer, Chris Brady, Tim Ream, Roldan, and everybody else. And so there's like a list of 98 players that Soccer America likes to pursue. But we talked about most of the ones that are there that are attached to national team duties. So what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. That link is important. It helps us out, helps them out, helps you out. Once again, you get to add more matches to everything you're already watching. You get BN, you get all the BNs, which is the home of AFCON, and they're dialing back up Champions League, so you can watch that on a schedule basis. And I mean all the BNs. So you get the Polish League, the French League, Turkish League. You get TIC matches from Argentina. You get Copa Argentina. You get Sudamericana and Libertadores. Keep an eye on that coming through the next round. You also end up with a lot of the A and B divisions in a lot of the other South American countries. You can get TV if you wish. If you have a certain cable package and you have the Spanish language speaking package, you get TV. So if you have cable, you might get that anyway, but you can add it on your Fanatis if you wish. You get CDO, and you get Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru, all at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. By the way, soccer over there tonight at 8 o'clock. We'll go over a lot of things because there's a lot to get into. Cups being won, and you had big rivalry matchups. You had Copas. You had a lot of gnashing of teeth, and you had furrowed brows, and we'll get into all of that, plus picks of the week coming up tonight at 8. Today, one matchup in MLS NEXT Pro at OneFootball and at MLSNextPro.com. Timbers 2 in Ventura County. That wraps up the week at 10 o'clock. You also have one match in the German Frauen-Bundesliga, Union Berlin and Werder Bremen. That is also on at 1 o'clock on DAZN, I believe. And so that's where that is. So real short list today. So you get to catch your breath a little bit when it comes to all the things And tomorrow we'll get into Major League Soccer. KCD is going to join us at 10 o'clock. Jamie Henderson, the sporting director at Union Omaha, is going to join us at 10:30. He got to see him in Open Cup. They survived that. So now that the season's going on in USL League One, he's still battling the executive section, trying to come up with a collective bargaining agreement with the USLPA. So we'll see where that is. But Union Omaha sporting director Jamie Henderson joining us at 10:30 as well. We are efforting a bunch of other guests this week. Since it is a bye, we have reached out to folks, and we will see who can come in and hang out with us and party as we get ready for the USMNT later in the week. We'll have a lot of stuff with the USMNT. You'll hear a lot of sound, and that will be ready to go to get you prepped for the 2 matches with Portugal and Belgium coming up here on the weekend and on the week. So keep an eye out for everything as we go. Like I said, we've got a lot of matches planned and a lot of guests planned. Our high school action this week is Thursday in Hogansville. Our first visit to Callaway and their soccer-specific stadium. It is Morgan County and Callaway in region play, boys and girls. Be out there for that on Thursday, and we'll have that one for you from Hogansville on the network at soccerdownhere.net/listen. Now, getting into all of the other news of the day, probably the biggest story came from France, at least we think, perhaps, because it was finally announced after time after time after time that it looks like it is going to finally be Zinedine Zidane taking over for Didier Deschamps after the World Cup. And that came out this morning, and it has been basically about a decade, and it was reported by the 4-letter that Didier Deschamps, after this World Cup, he is going to retire, and it looks like Zinedine Zidane is going to step into that. He has verbally agreed to take the gig. Julien Laurent, before we came on the air this morning over at the 4-letter, saying that Zidane will succeed Deschamps in the summer. Verbal agreement already reached between him and the Fédération Française de Football, the FFF, and Deschamps departing 14 successful years. Once again, Zidane, long destined for the role, finished his second stint as Los Blancos manager in 21, and so long destined for that role, waiting for his fellow 98 World Cup winner to leave in order for him to take the gig. He's had to wait longer than he first thought, but he will officially be appointed, according to Laurent, once the 26 World Cup is concluded for France. Last detail to iron out before he can sign the contract is over staff and literally how big his staff can be. In an interview with French newspaper Le Figaro, published yesterday, head of the FFF, Philippe Diallo, admitted for the first time he knew who Deschamps' successor was going to be. Quote, "I know who it is." Didn't reveal Zidane's name, but sources have said to the 4-letter that it will, in fact, be Zinedine Zidane. So Zidane is going to allegedly, probably, possibly take over for Didier Deschamps once the World Cup is done. And so you will have him taking over for a gig that has long been rumored to be his to take over. Now, we had Mike Gramajo on last week, and we've been discussing everything going on in Orlando. And we'll get into Major League Soccer in hour number 1 tomorrow, plus our conversation with KCD, and find out what is going on, because Casey White was front and center for the Marcel Hartel golazo for St. Louis City against the Revs. So we'll discuss St. Louis City and the Revs with KCD tomorrow in depth and go over literally what Matt Turner was thinking and what Marcel Hartel was thinking, Holiday Inn. But news yesterday, late night, Antoine Griezmann is set to sign a 2-year deal with the Purple Team, including an additional 1-year option, according to multiple sources telling this to the 4-letter. Left for Orlando yesterday after the Derby loss to Real Madrid to finalize the move, according to sources. Griezmann expected to begin playing for the MLS side in July. He's going to remain with Atletico until the end of the season, which still includes the Champions League quarterfinal tie with Barca and a Copa del Rey final against Real Sociedad. Retired from international duty back in 24. And obviously, we've discussed Griezmann time back about coming to Major League Soccer. talked to make the move to Orlando before the end of the La Liga year. Sources said he decided to put the move on hold to finish out the year with ATLUTD, all-time leading scorer, 210 goals, yet to win a major title with Diego Simeone. Simeone has said repeatedly he would support any decision that Griezmann made. Current deal with ATLUTD runs through 2027, and the MLS summer window opens July 13. So this is Gustavo Hoffman, Jeff Carlisle et al. So it looks like Griezmann will end up as that third DP in the third DP slot. And once we had Mike Gramajo on last week from West TV, and he's like, one of those DPs can easily be bought down if there was ever an issue. And so if you still wanted to go 2 and 4, you probably could, meaning 2 DPs and 4 academy product for Orlando. I want to get into Orlando's numbers here quickly, and I want to look at how much AM they have available and where they are as a roster. So it's John, you've got to go a while. So looking at how they addressed the offseason, remember they brought in the 3 U22s, all from Brazil. Martin Perelman is the coach right now. The interim has been given the title for the remainder of the season. Got thumped on the weekend, and as it was brought forth by our friend Nico Moreno, you get new coach bump on match number 1. I think it was Nico. But match 2 is where you might come back to earth. And Orlando did, in fact, come back to earth in a form that was it was a pretty painful watch if you're a fan of the purple team. That for the remainder of the fans of Major League Soccer, when Nashville put 5 on you and Sam Surridge had a hat trick, everybody was sitting there and they were going, okay, cool. Cristian Espinosa, by the way, scored in the 5th on an absolute golazo from a very tight angle. And then you had the Surridge natural hat trick, the PK, and then 2 in the second half. Warren Madrigal scored in the 80th to make it 5-0 final. And record start for Nashville. But Sam Surridge with the hat trick. And it was an ugly day for the purple team. Just to give you an idea, it was 18-10 in shots, 1 shot on target for Orlando. 9 shots on target. Half of the shots that Nashville took were on target, 5 ending up in the back of the net, including that PK. 3 blocks on each side. You ended up with 20 fouls called in the match and only 5 on the purple team. 15 fouls called on Nashville. But for the purple team, 5 fouls, 2 yellows. 1 yellow card for Nashville and their 15 fouls. 1 shot on target for Orlando, 6 off target, therefore. Then you had, once again, the 3 blocks. Overall passing percentages for Nashville at 90.5, Orlando at 83%. And then looking at the 5-minute intervals, you literally had Nashville in charge all the way through basically the first 75 minutes. Final 15, it was mainly purple team, but it was out of hand by then, and you're swapping out folks, and you're just trying to get out of Dodge. So it was a fairly painful result for Orlando. But what is Antoine Griezmann walking into? Right now, you have 3 and 3, and so that is what you have adopted for this season. Martin Ojeda, Marco Pasalic, and Brian Ojeda. But Mike Gramajo has told us that you could buy one of those guys down and turn that into a TAM situation to slide Griezmann into that space. Thiago, Luis Otavio, and Iago Teodoro. Basically, Thiago, Luis, and Iago are your 3 U22s. One of your 3 DPs can be bought down. You slide in Griezmann into that space. Your GAM right now, down 900,000. So you're down, 9 into 35. So you're down 25% month to month. The last registry of your GAM available, February 20th, 2.6 million in GAM. So you got 2.6 million in Garber bucks. I imagine most of that's going to go toward Griezmann. But you had 14 players out, and the players that you brought in probably were not a like-for-like swap. Coming into this year, remember, Araujo, Gillespie, Loyola, Mercado, Shaq Muhammad, Kyle Smith, Thomas Williams, Dagger Dan Thorhalson, Schlegel, Rodriguez, Muriel, Alex Freeman, out. In, Thiago, Luis Otavio, Brian Ojeda in the trade from RSL, Maxime Crepeau, Nolan Miller, super draft, Harvey Sarajian, super draft, Iago Teodoro, Griffin Dorsey in a trade, and Justin Ellis. So in does not necessarily equal out. In does not equal out. And so you've had what has happened to Orlando City. And right now, in the standings in the East, you look at the purple team, and the purple team is 1 win in their first 5. They've given up 17 goals in 5 matches. That is an average of 3.4. Minus 12 in goal difference. 3 points off of that 1 win. But they've given up 17 goals already. By far, the most goals allowed in Major League Soccer here early on in the 2026 season. Montreal, by the way, is second at 14. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to Griezmann and his soon-to-be minted deal when he comes into Orlando in the summer. And remember, you have international players coming in, and this will be the last time that we discuss this in a calendar year in a window, but you will have Antoine Griezmann, who will have played his entire La Liga year, coming in to try and assist with the purple team. I wonder what his constitution is. I wonder when he bonks, and I wonder how he pushes through when he hits that wall and how long it's going to take for him to adjust. Does he only get his break at the end of the 26 MLS season and then try to catch his breath for the sprint? Does Martin Perelman try to sit there and navigate Griezmann and his health into your lineups, knowing that you're going to need him to climb up the table? Start him out hot. He's going to hit that wall. What do you do after that? That, to me, is the larger question. Griezmann comes in, great, cool. Sign him to that deal, fantastic, great. But how are you going to navigate his conditioning, and how are you going to make sure that things don't get worse? How do you navigate things not getting worse when he does come in July? Transfer talk before we get out of here once again tonight, 8 o'clock. We'll go over the Premier League. We'll go over what happened in the Gummy Bear Cup. Has Arsenal been exposed? Pep Guardiola didn't push the envelope at all. Kind of stared at him, and he was just like, all right, we're not going to press you. And apparently that confused the ever-loving Ish out of the back line of Arsenal. No, we did not talk about it with Bart. But it really did have the back line of Arsenal asking questions about trying to move the ball forward in any kind of an offensive structure. Opportunities were there for Manchester City. They took advantage. They got the Gummy Bear Cup. We'll talk about that and picks of the week and all the things as we get closer to decisions and relegation. And we'll talk about the 6-point, basically the 6-point relegation special that happened in the Premier League involving Spurs and Forest. And it was bad for Spurs. And what does Spurs look like right now? It doesn't look pretty, that's for sure. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get out of here. Your rumors. United tracking Arsenal's Miles Lewis-Skelly, Jedi Robinson, and Tyreek Mitchell as they look for a left back. According to Team Talk, Lewis-Skelly's had a reduction in game time due to the form of Calafiori and Hincapie. 19-year-old's a candidate to leave in the summer as he hopes to make more appearances for England. Telegraph. Spurs are considering former Monaco manager Adi Hütter should they sack Igor Tudor after they lost to Nottingham Forest. Tudor did not attend the post-match news conference due to a family bereavement. Spurs have time to make a decision next match, not until April 12th before the stretch run. Hütter lasted 18 months in Monaco, guided to second in only his full season in charge. Spells at Mönchengladbach, Eintracht Frankfurt, RB Salzburg, and others. Bernardo Silva prioritizing a move to Barcelona, having decided to end his time at the Etihad when his contract expires this summer, according to Diario Sport. Barca sees signing the 31-year-old as an interesting deal, not a priority. Portuguese international also considering other options, large offers from the league we don't talk about. Juve's also made an offer, and Benfica want to bring him back. Leverkusen's Alejandro Grimaldo emerged as the main option as Barcelona considers signing a left back, Diario Sport. Concerns around Alejandro Balda's injury record. Not completely convinced about permanently signing Joao Cancelo from Al Hilal due to his defensive lapses. Once again, Diario Sport. Grimaldo's contract with Leverkusen ends in 27. 30-year-old has openly stated he wants to leave this summer, and it would likely take less than his 20 million euro release clause to complete the move. Barcelona considering extending Lewandowski's contract for an extra year, according to Fabrizio Romano, although he adds it has not been decided. Still considering his options, could stay at Barca, could go to the league we don't talk about, move to Europe, could come to MLS. Other rumors. AC Milan's expressed an interest in Leon Goretzka, whose contract expires in the summer. That's from Christian Falk. AC Milan also interested in Gerard Martin, Matteo Moretto, there for that one. Juve is going to hold an important meeting with Dusan Vlahovic's agent as they look to offer the striker deal that runs until 28, Nikola Shira. Brighton ahead of Celtic and Brentford in their efforts to sign Sao Paulo midfielder Damian Bobadilla. We do have a Botafogo update before we go. Leipzig, Nottingham Forest interested in Arne Engels from Celtic. Various clubs are keeping tabs on his team at Real Hatate. That's from Football Insider. Shira again, Genoa, Udinese, and Parma all monitoring Luis Hassa, attacking midfielder on loan at Carrarese from Napoli. Leganes midfielder Seydou Cisse has agreed to a 3-year deal in the league we don't talk about. That'll kick in July. Torino planning to trigger the clause in their loan for Enzo Ibose to permanently sign him from Udinese. Left-back Juan Cabal could leave Juve in the summer. Both of those are from Nikola Shira. And Elvis Reshbakai has received interest from Germany and abroad as his Augsburg contract ends in the summer and is unlikely to be renewed, thanks to our friends at Kicker from that one. Botafogo has fired their manager. So it's obviously the manager that's the problem with what's going on these days. And so it is... It came out over the weekend that it was going to be the end of the line for their manager, and made as much said. It was about this time yesterday, about lunchtime. They announced that Martina Anselmi is no longer the head coach of the main team. Communicated on Sunday morning. Although we have great appreciation for Anselmi and his technical staff, as well as much respect for his dedication and work ethic, we did not see the evolution, progress, and results we expect from a championship club, and we believe a change is necessary to achieve our goals this season and beyond. In this way, the club will pursue other paths in its sports project. John Texter in the football department are in the market looking for a new coach for the 26 season challenges. Rodrigo Balau, head coach of the U20s, is going to take over on an interim basis as they return to training Tuesday at Botafogo's training center. And Botafogo thanks Anselmi and his assistants for their services rendered and wishes them success in their next challenges. So, yes, it is, in fact, the coach's problem that is causing all of the issues. Let's see where they are in the standings quickly, just to kind of give you the reason. Morning, Abby. Abby, have not heard about the whole grass thing. Players did not necessarily commented on it. Botafogo, to give you an idea, is 17th. They are in the relegation zone in Serie A right now. 2 wins in 6. Snapped a 4-game losing streak last time out. 6 matches played, 6 points. And the only reason right now that they are ahead of other folks is that they have scored more goals and they have 1 more win than Mirasol. Remo has a worse goal difference, and they have 1 less win. So that's why they're 17th and not 18th or 19th. And they had to win last time out to get to 17th in the table. They were dead last heading into the weekend. Now, let's see what's on. Let's say hi to everybody. Let's find out what's on everybody's mind. Morning, Abby. Morning, Dell. Yeah, it was that Ernie Stewart. Let's see. So, morning, Wiley. And let's see. So, morning, Wiley. Morning, Forecard. Morning, Will. And let's see. Hopefully, we were able to answer your question in the Premier League. Yes, Atlanta United legend Sean Johnson. I almost did that for 3 for 3. Almost did that for 3 for 3. Almost mentioned that he was an Atlanta United legend, but I bit my tongue and just said Brookwood legend instead. And let's see. So morning Emilio. And yeah, really looking at, Tristan and Oyos. Yeah. And, it can be very exciting in a bunch of different ways sometimes. Morning, David. Morning, Ricky. And yeah, Ricky, I know of Miggy and Galarza, and there's one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. A lot of teams have mentioned who's going to be leaving on international duty. I think Atlanta United is waiting until early this week before they come out with their final list. Not as big as others. Some teams have anywhere from 7 to 11 players leaving in this international window. Atlanta United, I think, has only 3. So let's see. Trying to see who else is in here this morning. It's Wiley, it's Emilio, it's David, it's Ricky, and we're caught up. So tonight, it is going to be soccer over there. We're going to talk about everything in England. We're going to talk about the promotion relegation scraps that happened on the weekend and just how bad it is right now for Spurs, and it's not good. Talk about the run-in, talk about the leagues, good picks of the week to get into, and all the things at 8 o'clock tonight. Once again, tomorrow we're going to review Major League Soccer from the weekend, and we are also going to catch up with General Manager, Sporting Director at Union Omaha, Jamie Henderson, find out what's going on there in USL League One. Season's underway. It'll be good to catch up with Jamie and find out what's going on out there in USL League One. So thanks to Bart, thanks to Abe, thanks to y'all coming in for the early shift about what's going on with everything in the SDH universe. Mucho platio. Play it safe. It's the end of the show. That means that I get to do this. Back at it in 8 hours and 49 minutes before we come back here for soccer over there. Be safe, everybody, and we'll catch up with you soon. End of the show. So I get to do this. Bye.